All right, let's do some math. So for this project, there's a couple of things that we do know. We have a couple of layout choices that we can choose from, but you have to do the math yourself to figure out the background sizes. Because remember, you're making this 3 different sections. We're showing 3 different types of balance. So one of the easiest layouts that you could do, you're dividing it into 3 rectangles. You definitely want to have one that's larger than the other two. And we'll pretend these two are even, okay? So let's start with what we know. We know that the black paper for the background is 12 inches wide and 18 inches tall. Now, one of the other things that we know is we have these margins here where there's empty black space between your different types of balance. Each of these is 1/2 an inch, okay? So let's start with the width here, the 12 inches. We have a 1/2 inch margin here and a 1/2 inch margin here. That's 2 1/2 inch margins. Okay, so 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1 inch margin for the width. Okay, that means that the space that all 3 of these rectangles are, they're going to have the same width. That is the 12-inch width minus 1 inch margin equals 11 inches of space for the width. So that means all of these are 11 inches wide. Now for the height, again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 margins on the height, okay? So that's going to be 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2, okay? So we know that this is 1 and 1 equals 2 inches that we're losing on the margin for the height, okay? So that is 18 inches height minus the 2-inch margins means that we have 16 inches on the height total, okay? Now let's do some math here and figure out if these were all even first, how tall would each of them be? So we'll do 16 divided by our 3 sections. Okay, now I'm kind of old school in my math, so let's see. What's the closest number we can multiply to get to 16? We can multiply 3 by 5 and we get 15, right? Right. Okay, 16 minus 15 is 1. And if we do a decimal, right, then we'll have 10. What can we multiply 3 by to get close to 10? 3 again. 3 by 3 gets you 9. Okay, and we know that's a 1. Okay, carry the 0. It's going to be 3 repeating. Okay, 5.3. Now, I don't want any of these to have a decimal if at all possible, especially if it's a third. Thirds, when we're measuring with a ruler, gets kind of tricky. But we know this one's going to be larger. So what's going to be smaller than a 5 so we can give all the remaining to this bigger section? How about we do 4 inches? If we make the height of both of these 4 inches, what's going to be the remainder for the height on our large section? 4 plus 4 equals 8. Good. So we're going to take that 16 minus 8. Well, that's pretty easy, right? Because it equals 8. So we have 8 inches remaining for that large section. That makes this pretty easy to deal with. Okay, so we know that for the background of each type of balance, it's going to be 11 by 4, 11 by 8, and 11 by 4. Okay, what about one of these more complicated designs? So on a more complicated design, here's one that was really popular a few years ago. and it's one that I did for my example. So I have my rectangle at the bottom, I have my diamond, and next to my diamond pieces I have little rectangles. Okay, cool. Well, again, we have 12 inches long by 18 inches high, right? So here's where the margins get really complicated. The easiest shape I can start with is my rectangle, okay? And we learned up here the rectangle would be 11 inches wide. Now, the next thing is going to be the height of my diamond and the width of my diamond. Well, I already know the width of my rectangle. The width of my diamond should be the same. Okay, so from corner to corner of my diamond, that's going to be 11 inches. And because it's a diamond, similar to a square, it'll be the same thing the other direction, so from corner to corner. Another 11 inches tall. Cool. So I know that this is 11 inches tall. How tall is this rectangle here? That's the next thing I need to figure out. So I have a margin here, a margin here, and a margin here. That's 3 margins. How tall are the margins? Half an inch. Okay, so that means I have a ½ inch plus a ½ inch plus a ½ inch equals 1.5. Let's switch this to a decimal and do 1.5 inches that we're losing, okay? And it's from our 18 inches tall. So let's do 18 minus 1.5. Okay, turn that into a decimal. Carry the 1. 10 minus 5 is 5. 7 minus 1 is 6. 1 minus 0 is 1. Okay, so we have 16.5 inches is remaining. Okay, now we know that we have 11 inches here. So let's do that 16.5 minus 11. That's going to be a 0. 6 minus 1, 5. Okay, so this rectangle will be 5.5 inches tall. Teeny tiny. Now, I am not a geometry person. This is where things get to be really complicated, even for me. So the middle of my paper is the 6-inch mark, right? Because 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 margins that I need to worry about to find out the width of my triangles here. Okay, so I have my 12 inches across, and I can do the same thing I have been doing where I just add up all my ½ inches, or I can just subtract them from the 12. Either way, however you do your math, you're going to come out to the same answer. So I know a ½ inch plus a ½ inch is 1, another 2. Okay, so that's minus 2 inches. I have 10 inches left. 10 inches divided by my 2 shapes is 5 inches. So these are going to be all 5 inches on both sides. Okay, now as far as this distance goes, it's either going to be the same or different as the diamond. Again, I'm not a geometry person, so I'm going to have to be aware when I measure this, I'm going from corner to corner for my measurements. This is the distance across the diamond, not this edge. These will not be 11, okay? So we can practice cutting one in a little bit and see how that works and figure out that math. But for now, I know that this is 5 inches, 5 inches, 5.5, and then I get my other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 margins there. Okay. So, good stuff.